welcome to Slayerfest 98. I'm Ian Carlos Crawford.
I'm Philip Ellis, and today with us we have got.
Alistair Patton Garcia.
Hello. Hi, Alistair.
Got that.
And we're here to talk about Red, White, and Royal Blue. So I have to, and I think the answer is yes. Did both of you read the book first?
Yes.
I've got a confession to make.
Wait, you didn't read it?
No, I did.
Okay.
But I only read romance novels halfway through until they're happy, because I know bullshit's going to happen right after that, and then they're going to be unhappy. And so I only read it halfway through.
The book, I like a lot of people, I have a lot of affection for it. I remember reading it in February 2020, so before all of our lives changed.
It might have been when I read it too, like around that time.
It was like I almost wished that I'd left it and it had been like a lockdown read, because it was such an escapist. Like I laughed, I cried, I read it in a single afternoon. And so I just
that book is long.
I was in it. Also, I was on holiday in Spain and my phone had been stolen, so I had nothing else to do.
Oh, right. Yes, I remember when that happened, Phil.
But anyway, we're here to talk about a movie.
Yes. What did we think of the movie? Like overall, Philip, what did you think? Like when you finished it?
So I went in determined to like put my feelings for the book aside and be like, you know what, let's just enjoy this. I poured myself a big old glass of Kylie Rosé. I hit play. I was laughing almost immediately. Like I had so much fun with it. Like I think in the first half there were like, it's a really good like rom-com in that it's actually really funny. Especially in the first half, there were a couple of hilarious moments. I thought the actors were like pretty good. Like they had good chemistry. They're both incredibly good looking. I teared up at all the right parts. There were bits of it where it felt more like a montage than a movie, just because they sped through so much plot and they took so much out.
Yeah.
But you know, unless it was going to be like a 4-hour film, like that's fine.
Right. And I don't want a 4-hour rom-com, right? Like
exactly. Like it was. They kept it light. They kept the pace going. They got in. They got out. And yeah, I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. Alistair?
So I had a lot of separation from reading the half of the book and the movie coming out, that I just felt like I could go in there and it would be pretty fresh for me.
Yeah.
I ended up watching it 3.5 times, and I completely fell in love with the movie. I remember there's a lot of discourse, with the cast and with it coming up, and people are like, oh, they don't have any chemistry at all. But they got chemistry. They have a lot of chemistry.
I was like, oh, they're both hot. It's just going to be two hot guys like bumping heads. But they did have a lot of chemistry. Like I was like, oh, okay, they do. And I thought, I appreciate that we dropped the back and forth of like, actually, we hate each other quickly, because I do remember that bothering me in the book when it's like, why are they still saying they hate each other, but they're texting every fucking day? Like,
I had a similar thought on the sort of the sniping bit at the beginning. I think it's when you're doing when you're doing like a tropey romance, it's enemies to lovers. It's like that's not a thing that happens in real life. It's such a trope. It's such a you're asking so much of the audience to believe. And it's like, unless you're doing like a Pride and Prejudice or a Much Ado About Nothing, where it's like they are like, it's the typical version of it working. You just sort of have to like say, okay, we're doing enemies to lovers, but we're gonna just like skip to the bit where they're friends, because I feel like the book was at its most believable when they were just actually like they became friends. Yes. They discovered that they had like things that they sort of grudgingly liked about each other, and then it became more of like a friends to lovers.
Yeah.
Like the bit where like they're emailing and they're texting, and then like the New Year's Eve party, and then everything after that. I wanted to spend more time in that bit, because like just before it turns into something else. But yeah, I think pacing wise, like they did just enough of it.
Yeah. I really like that was my biggest issue with the book, was the pacing. And I thought this streamlined story like took away all of the pacing issues I had. I'm such a bad reader these days. Like I didn't remember which one's the president's son and which one's the
so Henry is
the
the prince, and Alex is the first son.
So I had switched it up in my brain. Henry was the bisexual one, and Alex was the gay one. And in my brain, I didn't remember the one that was bi being like newly, like I thought he was out as bi already. So I had fully like mushed all that up in my brain. Because when Alex was kissing those girls, I was like, he's gay. He's just kissing his friends. What's the problem? And then I was like, oh, he's the bi one.
It's more of a thing in the book where him kind of falling for Henry crystallizes something that he's like been kind of put into the back of his mind. And in the book, there's a character from like I think when he was in high school or college that he fooled around with, and that character kind of like comes back at the end for like little to no reason. Whereas in the film, instead they have the reporter character, and where they've been like hooking up like on the side for a little while, and like I've only ever seen that the guy who plays the reporter in maybe like one or two other things, but he played that character so like sleazy and vile that I'm glad it ended up that he was a bad guy and they weren't just making him like a predatory homosexual.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I was a little like, but then it was like, okay, no, he's like an asshole. So great. Yes. Also, and maybe he did in the movie, and didn't Alex have a sister in the book?
Yes.
Yeah, so they removed like so many characters. So he had a sister called June, and then there was he had like a mentor character who was like a Democratic politician who was like also gay and Latin American, and like that relationship was really important in the book. And basically, like, the thing that Casey McQuiston does really well in her books is she creates these like amazing casts of supporting characters. But which is great if you're spending like 400 pages in that world. But I understand that, to get the film in under 2 hours, they were like, the sister technically plays no role. They gave like Nora all of the best friend and sister chat, and then even she disappears in the second half.
I was gonna say that. I was like, was I mixing up Nora? Like, did I think she was the sister in the book? And like I was wrong. But then when the credits rolled, I was like, wait a minute, why didn't we see her at the end? Like, she just kind of disappeared for the last 20 minutes.
It's funny because I kept, when we first started watching the movie, I was like, where do I know her from? Where do I know her from? And it's Love, Victor, where she plays a very similar character. Yeah, as the best friend to the gay.
Yeah, I actually had to look her up too, Alistair. I was like, I know I've seen this face before. And I also appreciated that they're both very attractive in different ways. They're not like the same attractive. They're like different. They're both hot, but different ways, right?
Henry is like, he looks like every arsehole I went to grammar school with. And Alex looks like a Disney prince. Like the jaw and the lips and the eyes and the hair and the cheekbones and the skin. Like he's just, I could just look. Like there were times like I just kept pausing it just to like look at his face.
Yeah, I would notice myself. I'd be like, and then I'm like, all right, I'm just staring at this man because he's hot. Like, get a grip, Ian.
Like he's almost like too hot.
Right. Like
it's aggressive actually
because it's Disney Prince, but like there's something about like making him like fashioned, like fashioned for 2023, and not like the safe whatever like. He had an open shirt, he had necklace, he had some bracelets, like I don't know, really fucking worked for me. Nora is a character in the book though, right? Or is she not?
Yes. So I think I it's been a while since I've read the book, but I think they kept it the same, that she's in the film they say she's the daughter of the vice president. And I can't remember if that's the same in the book, but she's basically like Alex and then his sister June and Nora are this little like trio who like hang out in the White House together. And in the book, Nora plays a more significant role because when Henry and Alex get outed, there's sort of this conspiracy of like who did it. Whereas in the film, they really speed past that.
Okay.
But in the book, it's basically like it's a Republican plot to try and sort of derail his mother's re-election. And Nora is like some kind of data analyst, policy genius, where she basically like secretes herself away on her laptop and like is able to find the IP address or some kind of information that basically helps them figure out who it was that outed Alex and Henry. But in the film we get none of that because she's just there to do the like it really is like the thankless best friend role.
Yeah.
If I have one big criticism of the film, and I don't mind them simplifying the plot, but outside of Alex and Henry, like none of those characters really have room to shine. Like even like Sarah Shahi as Zara, she is such a fun character in the book, and I just wanted that performance to be bigger.
I don't know though. I will say that was probably one of my favorite scenes is when she opens the door to like the dresser and he's there and she's just like having a panic attack and she's like, absolutely not. Everyone shut up. Like, don't talk to me.
But she's like, oh, oh, oh,
Yeah.
yeah. And it was fun. Yeah. I wish we got maybe just more of that. Speaking of like big performances, I mean, how long do we have to wait before we can talk about Uma Thurman and her cat on a hot tin roof accent? It's sort of distracting, but I don't hate it. I mean, if anything, I just sort of wish that the film had been whatever film she was in. She's, it's like she's the first female president of the United States. She's the mother of the lead in this queer rom-com that is all about a love with international ramifications. So she's giving like a big performance with like a really like Tennessee Williams accent, and it's like I wish that everyone else had kind of made swings as big as that, and the movie had just sort of lent into being a bit more like larger than life because the premise can support that.
Alistair, as a Texan, did her accent bother you?
Not at all. I loved it. Honestly, it's Uma Thurman. We got her on screen for a second. I was like, "Is that Uma Thurman?" And then I was like, "No, yeah, that's Uma Thurman." And I loved her as a president and as a mom. I think that everything she did was amazing. And the coming out scene where she was like, "Who is she?" And he was like, he is a she, and she is Henry. And she was like, gonna take this in for a second, call some pizza, and then sit down and talk about sex. And I was like, okay. She's like, it was closed-minded of me not to talk about sex before this kind of sex, but we're gonna talk about this now.
I like really can't decide where I land on that scene because it was sweet and it was tender, it was corny, and it was her saying like, we're gonna need some pizza girls, like is just so stupid, but I still kind of loved it. I don't know.
Oh, I loved it. Well, because he thought that she was going to make it like an international incident.
Right.
Like, hey, I need to call up my people, get this shut down, But she's like, no.
He's like, no, get pizza and poppers.
Yeah.
I'm fairly sure like that's quite accurate to how it plays out in the book as well.
Is it just like, I know it was something like that.
It's I think if not the same, it's very similar. And like, yeah, I think there's a line in the book where he's like, oh yeah, when I was like 14, my mum made a very detailed PowerPoint presentation about like sexually transmitted diseases
and that's why she makes a joke about.
Yeah, it was very much not even an emotional incident for them, and I like that. It was. Plus, I feel like Alex, once he realized that he is bisexual, he very much just accepts himself. The director Matthew Lopez, he talked about how with the sex scenes, he really wanted to make sure that they made sense, in a gay way, and I think they did. We had like basically 3 sex scenes, and
I was I mean, not that they like showed that much, but I was surprised what they showed.
For a rated R movie, like if that had been a straight movie, it would be like a PG-13 or whatever. But
right, yeah,
that's by the by. Yeah. So there's the blowjob scene at the White House. There's the scene where he goes down on him in the stable.
Mm-hmm.
And there's
with the booty popping up and down. And
then there's the Paris scene, which is like the big one because that's where half of the internet discovered that gay men can do missionary.
Yeah.
Right. Like
yeah.
Yeah, it's very demurely shot in that there's you don't see anything below the waist, but like just the fact that you can see his knees, like exactly what is happening and like who is doing what to who. Whereas in so many other movies it would just be the shot of like one hand touching another on the pillow or something. Yeah, and the little discussion they have beforehand where it's like, oh, I've never done this, like who's going to do what to who, and it's more accurate than a lot of films are when it comes to like the preamble of gay sex. Like these are conversations you have to have.
Exactly, and the little push on the back, and The intimacy coordinator must have been. I hope they hire her or them or whoever they are for everything because they did a great job.
I don't know that I've seen such an accurate like portrayal of especially the first time you're having like anal with someone in like something where it's not like just a porn. I don't know. Like I feel like I don't remember seeing that so accurately done. Like, think of like Brokeback Mountain where it's like,
Mm,
how are they? Where?
after a pot full of beans.
Yeah. I don't know. Like towards the last, like just maybe the last half hour, I was like, all right. Like,
No, but I like that because it got serious. For them, it was like almost like a playful like affair, you know? And then Alex comes to the realization that he truly loves Henry. And we kind of saw that played out in the bar scene when he's like watching him like sing and you like feel it.
I was like, I don't know how I would feel if like I say I love you and this person literally like jumps in the water and swims away from me and leaves and like goes back to their own country. Like,
and also like has been telling you the entire time, like, you cannot fall in love with me. We can never be like together.
You can have me momentarily. I was like,
right. I feel like I would definitely feel a lot less gung-ho about it than Alex was about being like, how do I get him back? And I would be like, this man hates me. This man fled the country because I said I love you.
It's one of the bits where it's like, this makes less emotional sense because we have spent through so much. We haven't spent enough time with them together to get why this relationship is special and like important to them. Like it's like when he like shows up at the castle, like it's giving stalker.
Yes,
Like this guy has like private security. Like, how are you not shot on the way in?
I was also thinking that. I was like, I guess because he's the president's son, they'd be a little bit more lenient, but I still feel like they'd be like, you're not getting in. Right?
Yeah.
The weird thing I kept thinking about is how much worse things have gotten since that book came out. Like every news report, the moment he came out, like Fox News would have been like groomer, pedophile, how dare this faggot be in the White House. Like there would have been nonstop that.
I can't believe you went to a children's hospital.
Right. Like, he talked to a child.
With his gay lover.
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
I kept thinking about like, God, the media would be horrendous to the two of them. Like, just like truly awful. But like,
and honestly, I think some gays would have been pretty awful about it.
Absolutely. Are you kidding me? Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
gays
get on
it tracks that a gay leaked it. Like for me, that's like
you know what? I did appreciate like it's a much more complicated story in the book of like how and why they're outed, and it's all about politics. I like that in the film it was just like a petty bitch who was like, oh, you don't want to hook up with me anymore, I'm gonna out you.
And that like tracks, it really does, right? Like
also I feel like there's still sort of like we're I don't know where we are in the sort of the curve to or away from, like, you know, in the early 20th century, like queer coded villains and like all homosexuals and lesbians and bisexuals especially were depicted as being really like untrustworthy and like mentally ill or unstable. And like, so then like there was this big sort of backswing where it's like, oh, actually like the representation has to be really saintly and pure. And it's like, well, here's a movie where there's like lots of queer characters, so you get to have like, you know, the bisexual guy is like, he's really funny and charming and likable. And then there's like the closeted prince who's got a lot going on. And then there's this other gay guy who's an absolute prick and really jealous and like mean. And all of those are accurate portrayals of what queer men are.
Let me close this out because this is, I just realized what time it is. Philip, what was your favorite scene?
Oh, okay. I feel like it would be too obvious to say the sex scene. I'm gonna say it was the moment when they were like, they snuck away at the governor's dinner and they were making out, and then somebody walks into them and they spring apart just because it's really hot and then it's really funny. So it's like the best two qualities of the film in one. Which
is an impressive feat to pull off both at the same time. I feel like one right after the other, right?
But you're leaning in because it's so sexy, and then you're like howling with laughter. Yeah.
Alistair, what was your favorite scene?
It was when when Alex flew back to London to try to confront Henry on why he broke up with him, and was like, basically like, I know that I'm coming here to tell you that I love you, and I know you're not going to tell me back. And then Henry goes into his whole monologue about like, you don't understand where I'm coming from. I'm not going to trade one prison for another. And then he asks him, he says, "Hey, do you want me to leave?" And he's like, "No, I can't make you leave." And then I was like, oh, they're gonna make it work after this. I like that.
Yeah. My favorite scene was still her finding them, like Henry in the closet, and like that whole scene. We got to see his butt. She got to like ham it up and like, you know, give a performance.
There were a couple of closet scenes.
Oh yeah.
There were. And I also liked the way she talked to the prince when she was like, I forget what she said to him, and she like is like, "Shut up, this is not you." And then it's like,
I will Brexit your head from your body. It's like, I mean, that joke probably felt fresher 4 years ago. But yeah, the very sarcastic "Your Royal Highness" at the end, just so that she doesn't get like, you know,
in trouble. Yeah.
That's what I
really like, is like, because the joke was like whatever, but like the fact that she just like threatened him and then is like, "Your Majesty," like, and then leaves. Like I don't know, I loved everything about that scene.
I love a bit of bedroom farce, people hiding in cupboards. It was very like the best bits of Frasier.
Sure. What grade would we give this movie, Alistair?
A+++.
Philip?
I would say A-. I really enjoyed it. Couple of bits that didn't quite land, but like I the fact that it's like a big glossy gay rom-com that is funny and sexy, and like they've paid attention to the things that normally don't get paid attention to. I would love more content like this, please.
Yeah, same. I think I give it an A, and I think echoing what you both said, it's great. And like, again, not everything needs to be everything, right? Like, it's okay that this is like
a rom-com by its very nature cannot be groundbreaking,
right? And that is okay, right? Like, I feel like that is okay. Like, it doesn't have to be like, we as a gay and queer people, we deserve also our like movies that are fun to watch that maybe we don't revisit, or maybe we do, but like, it's fine. Not everything has to be like, oh, this is like Academy Award. Like, I just
feel sad.
Everything to be like saying everything all at once, and I don't need that.
We just need more movies where it's like, you know what, I'm going to open a bottle of wine and I'm going to rewatch this fun romantic comedy.
Yes,
I'm already looking forward to revisiting it in a couple of months.
Like, this is a movie there aren't many movies I do this with. It's usually shows, but like a movie that I could put on while I'm like maybe like sending emails for the podcast or like doing shit for the podcast at my computer and just like have it on my TV. Like Glass Onion was one of those movies. And like, neither of these are like my favorite movies, but they're enjoyable and they're good for like.
And it's like when you can
vibes.
Away, and then like when you know a really good bit's coming up, you stop working.
Yes.
And then you start crying.
I know exactly which bit you'd be watching, Ian.
All right. Well, thank you boys for doing this. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.